President-elect Donald Trump says he wants to wrestle ownership and control of Greenland, renewing a pledge he first made in...
I'm excited about this video. I'm not sure about all of you, but this was one of the big pieces of news before Trump actually entered office. So this might be a week or two old for some of you that are just hearing about this now. This hasn't been as top of mind since Trump has actually entered office, which has been not so long ago. And he's been doing all these executive orders, etc. And so that's been all the rage at this point in time. So we've almost forgotten that he had just mentioned how he wants to take over like Greenland and the Panama Canal. So I'm excited to see this is some of the logistics behind how this could work. And so I'm curious to see what they have to share here on this topic.
2019.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time.
Donald Trump Jr. just visited the territory, where locals were seen wearing MAGA hats.
I just want to say that it's a very special place.
But to actually buy the island, the U.S. would have to first navigate a series of obstacles. Greenland, a former Danish colony, has been tied to Denmark both politically and culturally for centuries. It's hosted multiple visits from the Danish royal family and features symbolically in the crown's coat of arms. Following Trump's latest comments, Denmark's king unveiled a change to the centuries-old design, making the segment representing Greenland more prominent. Although Greenland now has powers to self-govern, the island is still bound to Danish approval on certain issues.
And Denmark maintains responsibility for national defense and security, while at the same time the Greenlandic government has responsibility and control over domestic issues and domestic resources.
So under the current framework, Trump would need to convince both the Danish government and government of Greenland to agree to a deal. But if those connections were to detangle through independence, a movement which has been gaining momentum in recent years, Trump could directly negotiate with Greenland. Some Greenlanders are welcoming Trump's interest as a way to pursue that goal. That includes one of the island's most prominent online influencers.
3 things you should know about Greenland.
When I look overall, I'm happy that US is showing this much interest in Greenland, because this way we are being heard much more around the world. It feels like us getting the attention is speeding up our independence of Greenland from.
That's interesting to hear. So while I've obviously heard Trump's interest in Greenland, I'm not too familiar with the people of Greenland and their general perspective. It's interesting to see. Obviously, this person may or may not be representative of their entire country, but if they truly are one of the most popular content creators and this is part of their thought process, then presumably a lot of their followers would follow suit and agree with these sentiments. But it's interesting to see. I assumed Greenland might not be in favor of it. At least from a high level, Trump has mentioned this is a strategic point, which makes sense. It is sort of closer to Europe, generally speaking, and so it could act as a way of having a little bit more of a barrier between us and them, or anyone coming from that side of the globe. But it is curious to see how this could actually come to fruition, and whether or not this would be something he actually pulls off, or if it's sort of one of those things that he says to like get people talking, maybe even distract them a little bit, and then moves on to something else that he's doing. With sort of that like cover fire from some of these off comments that he makes.
Denmark.
However, even if Greenland gained independence, analysts say purchasing it is far-fetched.
This decision about Greenland is for Greenlanders. I don't believe the Greenlanders are interested in swapping one relationship with Denmark for the United States.
Plus, the government of Greenland has said it's not for sale. But if Trump did manage to make a deal, analysts say 2/3 of Congress would have to ratify a treaty before the takeover would be signed into law by the president. This process is not without historical precedent. In 1867, Andrew Johnson gained control of what is now known as Alaska from Russia in a deal which cost the U.S. $7.2 million, equivalent to around $138 million today.
That actually sounds like a pretty good deal. I'm pretty sure there's natural resources and things like that in Alaska, so that actually sounds like that definitely paid off. If they're using this as an example, maybe they're using this to bring up the legitimacy of taking on Greenland. So maybe that's why they're using that as an example. I assume we had to have made more than 138 million off of Alaska in that time, but I don't know that for a fact, but I would assume so.
The US has also tried to buy Greenland before.
Sturdy deep-sea cutters of the United States
That's really cool. I actually didn't know that has happened in the past.
Coast Guard patrol the western Greenland shores.
Following World War II in 1946, US President Harry Truman offered to buy it for $100 million. Denmark refused to sell. So far, Trump hasn't floated a concrete figure for any purchase. Instead, another option he has not ruled out is taking military action.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No, I can't assure you. You're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this, we need them for economic security.
Trump has also suggested leveraging economic policy to achieve his goals in Greenland. He's threatened to hit Denmark with tariffs if Danish officials don't cooperate with his takeover bid. Ultimately, it isn't clear how taking control of Greenland would be achieved.
The reason that the Truman administration didn't need to go forward is because NATO was created 3 years later, and that was the basis by which the United States signed in 1951 our first defense agreement with the Kingdom of Denmark, which allowed us to create our northernmost military base in northwest Greenland.
That base, which still exists today, includes a radar station that is part of the US's ballistic missile early warning system.
The thought about invasion, well, we're invading ourselves. We have a base that is right there, and it's so important to the United States. And again, we have the strongest ally and partner in the Kingdom of Denmark.
Even some of Trump's advisors acknowledge a Greenland takeover is unlikely. They say instead an expansion of US presence on the island through economic investments and a larger military footprint is a possibility.
And
That's a good point. This could also be part of, obviously Trump is a businessman. He would know how these types of things work, just generally speaking, negotiations. And so obviously classic version is to start high in a negotiation and then work your way down from there. And so for me, I obviously don't know Trump that well. We don't hang out. If you do Trump, I guess let me know. You'll probably never see this video. But he could just be doing this because he wants more military space, and maybe he had seen some resistance from Greenland or Denmark in the past, and so maybe he's just going to start the negotiations really high and say, you know what, if you're not going to let me have more space for my military bases in Greenland, like, I'll just take Greenland. And then this way, if they're really against that idea, then they'll say, okay, you know what, it's better that you just have all this space. Go ahead, take it. That'll be better for us than you taking all of Greenland. So that could be his strategy here, is maybe he's just saying this as a way to kind of put his foot in the door, start a bid high, and then come in lower later once it's kind of ruminated for a bit, and just see what people are thinking about, see how they kind of respond to some of these comments. So it could just be a negotiation tactic on his part. But obviously it's a tactic that works. It's why it's like a common adage, is because it works all the time. It's worked for ages, basically probably since the history of negotiations. So if he's doing it for that purpose, then I got to commend him. That's probably a really smart move. He's going really, really high to potentially get something that he wants that's much lower. And maybe he even gets more than what he originally wanted, but it's unclear to me personally whether he really wants the entirety of Greenland. That might be a nice to have, but that might not be his ultimate goal.
I think the other option, which I think is more realistic, the U.S. could pursue a compact or free association agreements like we have with Micronesia and some of the other island Pacific nations. Right, this approach would allow the United States to expand our access and influence, but also while providing safety and security for the Greenlandic people.
Greenland has vast deposits in rare earths, oil, and gas, also making it a focal point for other major rivals, including China and Russia.
Greenland is quite essential for the homeland security of the United States. It has been that way certainly since the Second World War to prevent Nazi Germany from invading the United States, the Soviet Union, strategic bombers, Russian submarines. The United States has to prioritize the Arctic and making sure that we have the strongest possible defense and deterrence. We don't need to purchase Greenland to do that. We have a robust security, defense, and economic relationship with the Kingdom of Denmark. They have been open for business for quite some time. We just have to deepen that investment. It's the right thing to do, but we certainly don't have to purchase it.
Well, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on US potentially taking Greenland in some form or another. Otherwise, thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please hit like or subscribe. I'll see you around.